And now it is my honor to introduce our speaker for the President's Convocation, who is, unsurprisingly, our president. Christopher L. Holloman became the 31st president of Centenary College of Louisiana just over a year ago. You have a brief biography on the inside of your program, so let me just add here that it's often helpful to know the way to a president's heart. Turns out he loves a good, hearty breakfast. So keep that in mind for future programming, students. Please join me in welcoming President Holloman to the podium.
I feel compelled to start with completely unplanned, a brief history and vocabulary lesson. So, as you know, Centenary was founded by the United Methodists, or by the Methodists at that time in the United Methodist tradition. John Wesley is the founder of United Methodists. His brother, Charles Wesley, was a great hymnodist, wrote hundreds of hymns. When you see the word hymn in your program, that means everybody sings. So we'll do better about that next time, friends. It's an honor to be here. I think back to a year ago, and you didn't know me, and I didn't know you, and yet we still liked each other, and I think we still like each other today. We've come a long way in a year. I'm excited about the direction that the college is going. I'm excited to welcome our largest freshman class in quite a few years, and we're excited about the opportunities we have planned for you and the changes we have made and will make. I do want to welcome all of you, new students, returning students, friends and colleagues, faculty and staff, and board members. I especially want to lift up, we have a number of members of the Brown family, after who this chapel is named, including the patriarch, Charles Ellis Brown, who's sitting in the rear. So I'd like us to publicly acknowledge the Brown family and their great support of Centenary College. Convocations have a long history, going back to at least the 1600s. They're used for all sorts of things to celebrate the anniversary of college foundings, new presidents, new academic buildings, all sorts of things. But the most common occasion is exactly what we're doing today, marking the beginning of a new academic year and welcoming you into a community that has learning as its highest value and its prime goal. This is also at Centenary the last, or at least one of the last, official events of orientation. So this event really is largely aimed at our first-year students, and I'll be talking largely to them, but hopefully it will have resonance for many of you. I hope that you have been made to feel welcomed. I hope you're excited, but not too overwhelmed at the year to come and years to come at Centenary. I recognize that much of what I have to say today will not stick with you, or perhaps only vaguely. How many people were here for this event last year? What was the theme? That's okay. If nobody remembers, that means I can use the speech again. So it's all good. Journeying. Thank you, Madam Provost. Thank you, Barb. I know who the sophomores in the choir were, so I was going to call on you, but I chose not to. I'm actually somewhat optimistic that perhaps some of what I have to say will stick with you, because I hope it affirms choices you have made by coming to Centenary. Undoubtedly, many of you have been told in the last few weeks, as you get ready to come to college, that these will be the best 4 years of your life. Anybody hear that? Yeah, a few nods. Today, I would like to tell you that I profoundly hope that that's not true. How disappointing it would be to walk out of the Gold Dome in 4 years or 3 years or 5 years and think, downhill from here. And I'm pretty sure that it won't be the case for you. I'm pretty sure it's actually not the case for most people in the room who have a little bit of distance between themselves and their college years. And actually, I don't really think that's what people mean when they say that. I think there are two or three things going on. The first is, for many people, and I think probably for myself, if I'm honest, they're certainly the most fun 4 years of your life. And the other thing is, as they say, distance lends enchantment. Most of us don't remember or have chosen. Humans are very good at not remembering the bad stuff, and we choose to forget the anxiety we had as college students about what we would do after college, the tension of the social milieu at college, all of those things. And we certainly, if we're being honest, those on this side of the room, if we're being honest with you, we can't fully comprehend the challenges that you face in a world so changed, in a world so dynamic, so global. I hope that over the course of your life, you'll find 4 years that bring you maybe not quite as much fun, bring you more responsibility, but bring you deeper and more lasting joy. And we'll come back to that. I do know, however, that this time presents you with a unique opportunity. You're at Centenary in part, at least, I hope, because you at some level understand what we are doing as a liberal arts college. We value the long traditions of the liberal arts, but we also believe that what we teach and the way we teach it in terms of critical thinking and problem solving and communication and all those things that we value and have been valued for so long prepare you to be successful in your work life and in your life generally. But this morning I want to make sure that you know we are also about something more. In some ways it's embedded in liberal arts, but it's not always a part of what we talk about when we talk about a liberal arts education. And I'm talking about the idea of vocation or calling. Those two words are essentially the same word. Calling is derived from the Latin vocare, vocation. I want to talk and I hope that over the next 3, 4, 5 years, however long you're at Centenary, you're going to be hearing us talk more about vocation and calling. It's something I feel passionately about, and trying and keep our eyes on that. You weren't here, but the title of my inaugural address last March was Called to This Time and Place. And I think we are called to this time and place as an institution. So I want to make sure we clear up a little bit of confusion sometimes about what we mean when we talk about vocation. Vocation has, at least in popular discourse or everyday speaking, has a couple of meanings that aren't adequate or perhaps might mislead us. One is that there's an idea that vocation and occupation are synonymous, that vocation means work. And that's captured some when we talk about vocational training or vocational education. It frequently means, working at a trade or a specific skill. But that's really not what vocation means. Vocation has this much deeper meaning of calling. And in that sense, it has also historically been tied up with a notion of a religious calling, that you're called to the ministry or called to the priesthood. But I want to suggest to you that that's not what we mean when we talk about vocation, although sometimes it has resonances in that world. But instead, we're talking about understanding, excuse me, what it is that drives you. What is your calling? What are you called to? There's a man, his name sounds like he's some old ancient German, but he's not. He's still alive. He's in his 90s, a Presbyterian theologian, Frederick Buechner. He has a sentence that's often quoted. Vocation is the place God calls you. The place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. Where you know who you are and you know what the world needs. So we are going to be asking you and hopefully helping you intentionally think about who you are and who you will be. To consider 3 basic questions. What are you good at? Not just your skills or your abilities, although those are important too, but your personality, your general approach to life. Are you a people person? If not, then, car sales probably isn't for you. When I was a young teenager, I read a book. As some of the people who are as old as I am would remember this series of young adult books called We Were There. Anybody remember? So put two youngsters in a historical situation. So you were there at the signing of the Declaration of Independence or whatever. For some reason I read you were there at the first nuclear chain reaction. It was a page turner. Interestingly enough, I ended up going to graduate school where that took place, completely coincidentally. But I decided when I was, I don't know how old I was, 10, 11, 12, that I wanted to be a nuclear physicist. Problem is, I'm not that good at science. We have to figure out what we're good at. We have to figure out where our skills, our personality is. What's your general approach to life? Second question, what makes you happy? What do you enjoy doing? Where are your passions? What's important to you? It takes some time, it takes some discernment, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And then the third question I need for you to reflect on and will help you is, and this is in some ways perhaps the hardest, where will you be? Where, physically, will you live out these skills and this passion? We exist in a time, and one of the reasons that vocation sometimes has almost a negative connotation is because for a long time, vocation meant deciding or being told or discovering what your place in life is, what's your station in life. And you were locked into that. We have an unprecedented opportunity to decide for ourselves where we will be. Now, we don't know what the future holds in terms of technology. There's a book that I'm familiar with called the End of Place. But because of our technology and so forth, place doesn't mean anything. We can do anything from anywhere. That's obviously not correct. We certainly are not going to be able to do the dirty hands-on-the-ground work of rebuilding Houston or addressing the needs of the homeless here, anywhere else. That requires a certain sense of place. But we have an unprecedented opportunity to choose. So through those three questions, answering those questions is not easy. It's not easy for any of us. And it's a process that's ongoing. But this time at Centenary gives you two things that gives you an opportunity on two dimensions that you will find more difficult to have in the years to come. The first dimension that you have is time. Now, I don't mean to diminish the claims on your time. I know that many of you have responsibilities and obligations off of campus. And I certainly know that your faculty members and your coaches and your choir director put other kinds of obligations on your time. But the fact is that while you are here, you have time in ways that you will not have in the future. And discerning your vocation takes time. It takes time to try things and realize that, well, actually, I'm not as good at that. That's not where my passion is. Time to start over. So please take advantage of this time. And the second dimension is space. The words safe space have been hijacked for political purposes in an unfortunate way. When we talk about safe space at Centenary, we certainly don't mean that you will not be challenged, that you will not be asked to reflect on your ideas, your opinions, your quote-unquote facts. Your deeply held opinions, you should be able to have thought through them and understand them. So this isn't a safe space where you won't be challenged. If anything, the reverse. It's part of our job to challenge you. Max Weber said the primary role of a teacher is to present his or her students with inconvenient truth. But we do provide a safe space in the sense that this is a space for you to try out new ideas, to fail without being catastrophic, with a group of faculty and staff that are there to support you, to serve as guardrails, to serve as safety nets, so that in this crucial period where you are trying to answer these vital questions of who am I, what am I good at, where do I want to do it, how can I serve, how can I be of use, you can think about those things in a safe space. I encourage you to take advantage of it. You will not leave Centenary as a finished product. Over the course of your life, the answers to those questions will change. You may find, for example, that your occupation and your vocation, your work life and your calling are different. Ideally, we all work at jobs we love and that fulfill us. Over the course of time, that may change. I tell you personally, for much of my work life, I thought my vocation was to be a sort of Robin Williams, Dead Poets Society, or if you're really old, Mr. Chips kind of professorial figure. I went through a formal program of discernment with my wife, Connie, and thought about, is a presidency, is that someplace that my skills and my passion fit? And for me, the answer was yes, but only in a particular setting. And I am blessed that I am here because I have a pretty good sense of my skills, my passion, and I know that in terms of place, I can only live those out at a small liberal arts college, preferably in the South. But my father's experience was very different. He came back from World War II and was, his passion, his calling, his vocation, I truly believe, was to be a writer or a teacher. He was a Phi Beta Kappa English graduate from the University of North Carolina. He wrote professional published dispatches from Europe during World War II. When he came back from World War II, he, for a variety of reasons, was compelled in one sense or another to enter the family business and spent his career in the family business. He was good at it, but I don't think it fulfilled him. He lived out his vocation and his call to service in other ways. He taught Sunday school at least once a month until he was well into his 90s. He served his entire career in the National Guard. He was a teacher. He put together, back when this was kind of a thing, back in the 50s and 60s, he put together slideshows and lectures that he would take around to civic organizations. He led trips for senior citizens. So he lived out his vocation separate from his work life. So that's a possibility too. Your answers to these questions will change over time. But in the same way that the liberal arts education that we talk about all the time gives you the tools to be successful in your work life, we also intend to give you the tools to have a life of meaning and purpose, because that's where true fulfillment lies. I've been reading a book. Some of you have heard me talk about it several times now. It's made a great impression on me. It's called Flourishing, and it's by a man named Miroslav Volf. He's on the faculty of the Yale Divinity School. And he points out that as humans, we are created both to enjoy things, to have pleasure, but also to have and live lives of meaning. And he says, pleasure without meaning is vapid. Meaning without pleasure is crushing. Meaning and pleasure bring true joy. St. Irenaeus said, the glory of God is the human person fully alive. On behalf of all the faculty and staff, I welcome you once more to this community. We look forward to journeying with you. See, I worked it in again just so you remember. and preparing not just for the world of work, but discovering your talents and passions, revealing your vocation, helping you to make meaning of your experiences, and living lives that matter. Thank you.